Hi, and welcome to another episode of Real Estate with Howard Drukarsh. For those who don't know me, I'm one of the co-founders, along with Arthur Bartram and Ron Petticord, of Canada's largest independent brokerage with over 5,400 agents. I've also, in my career, been on the board of directors of the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board. I've been on the board of directors of the Real Estate Council of Ontario, RECO, the registrar for all the agents in the province, and I sit on the board of the company I co-founded. If you're interested in finding out more about me, our first episode called Intro is all about me and my background and how did I get to where I am today. This is not your typical real estate podcast. We'll be interviewing real estate agents, brokers, developers, builders, people who market pre-construction, media people, lawyers, finance people, and people not necessarily in the real estate field, but are just fascinating because of their career and their life. The one thing all of our guests have in common is that they have all had a trajectory that didn't go straight up, and they found a way to overcome setbacks, rejection, failures, roadblocks, and keep going. And for that, they make very interesting stories, and I know that our audience loves to hear about these people. My own background is I was a real estate agent for 20 years, before getting involved with this company that I started. And then as we grew, I would manage different branch offices. Then for a few years, I was also a broker of record and president. And one of the things that's really important in the brokerage business is the agents, the people that you hire. And my role was meeting with, interviewing and hiring people from when I started with the company. And over the time that I was involved with the company, I hired over 1,000 people. What I found interesting is the ability to kind of look at people when they came in, new people with enthusiasm or just a spark. My gut feeling was they'll do well, and I kind of based it on what I hired them as an agent. Then there were people transferring from other brands, well-known brands that were around a lot longer than us, and that was just really flattering because these people left a brand and joined our brand, which was newer, but they left it because they saw more value in our company. So that's my history in the business. Today's guest, I'm going to read a little bit about his background, then I'll introduce you. He started in real estate 37 years ago to the date. We found that out prior to the recording. He has been involved with Toronto's first rent-to-own residence called the Chelsea at Bayview and Sheppard. That was in 2003. He's also, and this I think is really impressive because I know these projects, he's the leading salesperson for Daniels. Now you know the company he's with. Their master plan communities. There's the Toronto Regent Park. There's the Mississauga City Center. And there's Daniels Waterfront. All of which are incredibly big. And the reputation of this company is so outstanding that I know these are going to be terrific and well sought after developments. So now I'm going to introduce you to Dominic Tompa. Dominic, welcome to our program. Welcome to our podcast.
Great to be here.
You know, I talked a bit about you, and we're going to get a little bit more into your own background. But one of the things that I think the audience would be really fascinated by is how does Daniels differentiate from other developers? I know the reputation is stellar. So you're probably, as vice president of sales, you're probably the right person to ask. So why don't you tell us a bit about Daniels as well?
For sure. Daniels is a very unique company. And as a developer, I think that there's no one out there who has the same mindset and framework that we have. And this is part of why I was just so happy to become part of this company. Our president and CEO, Mitchell Cohen, has, as part of one of the most important parts of who we are, is social responsibility. And we are all about community building. And you know, for Mitchell, one of the things that he's so passionate about is to try to make sure that affordable housing is something that every person has a right to. And when you take a look at what Daniels has done over the last 36 years since its inception, so much of what we do involves in both creating great communities to live in, but also trying to create affordable housing opportunities. And we've done it through so many different venues. Recently, in affordable rental, with a partnership with Wood Green and Sun Life in the city, where we've made affordable rental units available in our great Regent Park community. That was just announced last week. But we've also, in every community we build, we try to create an opportunity for Habitat for Humanity and have a few homes available for Habitat for Humanity. I believe, Howard, that's how you and I first met, was your involvement with Habitat for Humanity. And one of our partners and my good friend Martin Blake was, I believe, on the board with you, and introduced the two of us through that. That's been our real focus. Obviously, over the last 36 years, we built over 30,000 homes. So we've got a lot of experience. What's unique about Daniels, and you mentioned the scope of some of the communities that we've been involved with, and one of our really strong points is in master planning and building more than just one building that's a condominium in one area, but actually completely building out a full community. And that involves the level of talent that we have that's able to do that, to take it from development right through to completion, is really, really incredible. And I think very few developers out there have that. When you take a look at communities like Regent Park, that we've done 53 acres of the 69-acre revitalization, we're very proud of that. And you mentioned that Chelsea up at Bayview and Sheppard. And I always like that. That's one of my favorites, just because it was the first complete building that I ever took charge of in terms of leading the sales for it. But it really was exactly what Daniels is all about, trying to find new ways to make housing affordable. And that was the first time any developer had ever done an actual entire building as rent-owned, and where part of the tenant's rent was going towards the down payment to purchase their suite. So these are all the type of innovative ways we try to find to make housing affordable. We also have our first home communities, where we build them before we go on sale. And then when we go on sale, we also have an incredible deposit program where they're able to put down 5% instead of the typical 20% that you have to pay with a typical new home purchase. So it's been part of who we are and what makes us so unique, that social responsibility. And again, Mitchell's quest really to make housing affordable to everybody is infused in everything that the Daniels Corporation does.
I know that when I was involved with Habitat, we had an event at a restaurant that is a part of the development at the Regent Park area, and I remember there was a unique story for that. What was the name of that restaurant?
You probably were at the Paintbox Bistro.
That was it. Yeah, Paintbox Bistro, and there's some unique story about the people that work there. Am I correct?
Well, it was all part of it was how we tried to create employment opportunities for people who live in Regent Park.
Okay.
And it involved a lot more than just the Paintbox Bistro, but also the construction team recruited locally. We had in our presentation center, our sales office, on my team, people working on our team who lived in Regent Park. So it was again, it was part of our approach, was that we wanted the whole community to be part of this and to benefit from it. The bistro and bringing a restaurant in Regent Park at this stage, we're in phase 3 of the revitalization. So now you're seeing a lot of retail there. Mm-hmm. But the Paintbox Bistro came in early, right, at a time where there really was no commercial in Regent Park, and we sold the first condominium in Regent Park. It was called One Cole Condominiums, right at the corner of Parliament and Dundas. This goes back to, I believe it was spring of 2009. And at that time, there hadn't been a bank in Regent Park for I don't know how many years. There hadn't been a grocery store. This was the part of our. If you want to build livable communities, these are all integral parts of what you need. You need to be able to be walking distance to shopping, to go to a bank. a coffee shop. There hadn't been a coffee shop in there. Tim Hortons was the first signed up and is still there and has been very successful. But so yeah, that's part of our approach. We want to create employment opportunities that are local. We also, uh, in our new condominiums, we also try to create opportunities for local artists. So we try to use local art uh, in our amenity spaces, in our lobbies, and that. So our whole concept is in building community and giving back to community and giving opportunities for people in the community.
I think it's such a, it's such a terrific way to be in business. I mean, it's everybody's of course in business for profit, but to be able to include community benefits, it just I think you get a lot of respect from not only the community but outside communities as well. Um, One of the things I wanted to mention, and because occasionally I'll be, if I'm traveling north and south in the city, is I'll take River Street, and when this development started, it's hard to imagine unless you've seen it, the scope of how many buildings, and as I go up and down there now, I see how it's getting to completion. But was it at one point one of the largest urban developments in North America?
Yeah, the total size of the Regent Park footprint is 69 acres.
Jeez, wow.
And in terms of size, you're absolutely right. It's one of the largest urban areas in North America that's gone through a revitalization like this.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was really significant. And if you take a look at it prior to the start of the revitalization and today, what you really see is just how much more animated the community is, and just a lot of it has to do with, and it's not just, obviously it's not just Daniels, it's the city, it's the community members, it's the people of Regent Park are just so fantastic in being involved in the community and taking pride in the community. It's just so wonderful to see. But the infrastructure that's gone in, things like Daniels Spectrum, having a performance space in Regent Park, and something that helps to promote local artists was really just a great thing. And the city of Toronto putting in a new indoor pool that hadn't been done for about 20 years in the city of Toronto. It's a fantastic pool and a new 6-acre park. So it was more than just buildings, and that's really what we try to do in every community we work in. We look way beyond putting up beautiful buildings, and yeah, we're proud of the buildings we build. I think what's also unique about Daniels is it's our own construction company. A lot of developers, people don't realize, is that they're doing the development and sales, but they're not actually building it. They're selling it and then they're contracting out the work. With Daniels, you are dealing with a Daniels person who's got interest in this from the moment you walk into a sales office right until you move in. It's all been built by Daniels, and it's Daniels employees from beginning to end. So we take a lot of pride in what we do, in the quality of the work we do in terms of our construction, but we also have always this major focus of anywhere we're going to build a new residence. We also focus on trying to do something for the community.
Well, as you talk about it, and I knew about the Regent Park, I didn't know about the other two projects, but the fact that you're leading all three projects and that you've set aside time to talk to me today is very impressive. Because if people are building one project, that's a time consuming, and I guess because having been in the real estate business for so long, I always felt there was something about Daniels that made it unique, and you've explained it. I mean, you've explained the construction company and this community benefits you do. So thanks for sharing that with me and for the viewers who are going to see this podcast. I think it's great to know more about the company. The reason I wanted to have you here was also because we did meet a number of years ago, and I thought it'd be interesting for people to meet you, the person, not just the senior salesperson at Daniels. So one of the things I found with most people is the influences of family. So in terms of your background, how influential would family have been in your life?
Um, I was very close to. I came from a family of 5, I
Hmm.
was the youngest of five, so there was some really huge age gaps in my family. Um, my brother that I was closest to was 10 years, he's passed away since, but he's 10 years old. He was 10 years older than me, but we were very close. My father passed away when I was a child, and so he kind of became that person who inspired me, and that's really why I got into real estate. He was in real estate, and I hang out with him as you know. I'd be a teenager. I'd hang out with him, see what he was doing, and it was a lot of interest to me, and that's really why I went into real estate. I just finished high school, been working for about a year, and thought, I looked like I was about 15, but I went out and got my license, and said, hey, if my older brother can do this, so can I. And I was excited about it, and I dived right in at the age of 21.
Well, Dominic, you look like about 16 now, so it hasn't been a huge change. Very youthful looking.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that very kind lie.
Okay, no, it's not so much a lie. What about this? Everybody has big influences in their career. What would be for your career? What were the importance of persistence, luck, and of course hard work?
um, Yeah, you're absolutely right. When you take a look at it, when you start to look back, and as you said, I've been in the business for 37 years, but there was ups and downs. When as I mentioned, when I started at the age of 21, getting getting business was very challenging. You had to create credibility, and looking at someone who looked like a kid wasn't easy.
Hmm.
And I had a lot of challenging years in the first 4 or 5 years, where it was really hard to establish that. And I kept at it. I always credit my older brother, who always was. He was a very positive person, and he'd always give me. I was always reading self-help books, and that was because of him. And he was giving me, the never quit, and you just keep going, and never feel sorry for yourself when things aren't going well. And in the beginning, there was too many times when there was a lot of month left at the end of the money,
Hmm.
and but I didn't give up. And then the funny thing is, just sometimes you look at the timing of your own career, and then to what's happening with the overall world and economics. Just as my career was starting to do well, we hit that very deep recession in the
Hmm.
early 90s, when home prices did a very significant drop. And we had a couple of years that were really, really hard in the industry. And you lived through that as well. And you know that, it was a tough time in the industry, and it was tough to frankly, just to make a living at that time for about a couple of years, when prices had dropped. So that hit me right at that time. And the one thing I'd say about it, and I struggled through it like everybody else, but it actually made me better at what I do. It really taught me that at that time I was self-employed, and when it taught me that being self-employed doesn't mean that you shouldn't be having fixed working hours, and have your schedule and stick to it. That's what I really learned at that time, was that there's nothing that replaces getting up every morning, get up early, be organized, and stay with the program, and don't quit just because it's not working right at the beginning, because you've got to see it all through. So in many ways, what I experienced through that was just keep going regardless of how challenging things can be. And eventually, once we kind of got out through the worst of that recession, things just picked up from there, and I created all the right habits, and had the confidence that no matter what happened in my business career, that I could meet whatever challenges were there.
Listen, I lived through that as you did, and uh, a lot of people couldn't sustain for whatever reason. And I always felt anybody that made it through the 1989 early 90s, they really wanted to be in real estate, because that was really the most challenging time for me, and obviously for many people. So I do understand that. What about the aspect of, let's call it, luck in your career? How important would luck have been, if it was?
Um, Sometimes I would say, in many ways, the luck in the sense of meeting the right people at the right
Right.
time, for instance. and
Hmm.
and when I met when I started working with Daniels, it was really through work I was already doing, um, and the luck of meeting people that saw things the same way as I do. I mean, I often say, and I think sometimes people doubt that I mean this, but I really do, is I don't think I could work for any other developer but Daniels, because part of why I joined with Daniels and became part of their team was because they really represented so much of what I believed in.
Mm-hmm.
And it for me, it just dates back right from from youth. I mentioned earlier that my father passed away when I was quite young. I was only 9 years old, and my mother had 5 children, and it was not an easy time for us. And so I grew up knowing what it was like not being in a position where you would have any of the niceties. We struggled throughout my childhood and teen years, and of course when I got into real estate, the struggle continued because it was a challenging business to really grow in. So I always believed that what I wanted to be part of was helping to create opportunities for people who were working hard and who just needed a chance, needed someone to help them out to find a way to improve their lives. And when I saw what Daniels was doing in so many different ways that we talked about earlier, I just knew I wanted to be part of that, and that's why when that first building I did with Daniels was the Chelsea at Bayview and Sheppard, 8-story, 128 suite building, but every single suite in that building we did as rent own. And I can't tell you just how fantastic it felt with each and every one of those people who couldn't believe that they were able to actually save for a down payment while they were renting and actually end up buying the home that they were renting in that manner. And it was so rewarding that I knew for sure that that was the right place to be, because Daniels just was so behind that community. And when we did that, we were all talking like, what else can we do? What other ways can we help make homes affordable? And again, we've talked about the first home communities, which are so incredible because of the opportunities they give first-time buyers to get into home ownership. But that was really the basis of what made me be so attracted to Daniels. And I think it's luck that we met. I met key people as actually Martin Blake, that well, one of the partners, that at that time that we saw things in the same way. And again, it's really, when you look at Daniels, it is Mitchell Cohen and his philosophy. But what his philosophy is, I believe so strongly in well before I met Daniels, that it just felt so right.
No, it's so invigorating to hear, the connection you have with the company. A lot of people aren't fortunate enough to get that. I mean, it does make life easier when you vibrate with the way the company vibrates, and it's the satisfaction that you've been getting. I think, it's great to hear this, because I think a lot of people haven't been fortunate enough to find that match, and you have. I wanted to ask this as well, because you did start off as a residential salesperson. Obviously, now you're in new construction. If someone were to ask you, a young new agent, about getting into the real estate business, and you may already get these questions anyway, but what sort of advice would you give or have you given about real estate when a younger person asks you?
I always tell people to go into it with the idea. A lot of people go into it with the idea, oh, I'm going to be. There are misconceptions of what it is to be self-employed, right? I mean, if you're going into the resale end in particular, you're running a small business, and a lot of people look at it from a standpoint of, isn't it going to be cool to have my own time and they're thinking that they're going to have all this time off. And I always take it from the approach of, be prepared for what it will really take to be successful. And that means you're probably going to work twice as many hours than if you had a job where you were going in, clocking in, and leaving after 8 hours. You're going to be working all the time. And the other thing is to treat it as a job, in the sense that schedule yourself. That was that was in my first few years when I got into real estate, and I'm sure other people have who are in the industry feel the same way. That's probably the biggest mistake most of us made is you didn't schedule. You didn't say from 9 till 11 I'm going to call prospects, and from this time I'm going to do that. You kind of would wing it based on what you had on the go at the time. And it's impossible to be successful in this industry if that's how you're doing it. If you want to be in this industry for the long haul, you've got to schedule yourself. You have to have self discipline. It's an absolute mandatory part of your personality. If you want to do well, you've got to have the discipline because there's not going to be anyone there telling you, go do this, go do that. The only person telling you to do that has to be you. So that's what I would tell people to do. And I really think that resale is a great way to get into the industry, even if later on you change the direction you go in, like I did, because that's what really it really gives you those lessons of how to run a business, of what you need to do to be successful in real estate. It helps you to learn how to communicate well with people and how to build relationships. So I think that resale is a great way to get into the industry. And of course, for many people, resale is where they're going to stay in and thrive and enjoy. In my case, I went towards a new because it was something that an opportunity that I just, as I mentioned earlier, just felt like such a perfect fit that I couldn't say no to it. But those are the things I'd say is go into it and be honest with yourself and be honest with yourself of why you're getting into it. If you're saying to yourself, oh, I hear real estate agents make a lot of money. I hear that from a lot of people. Oh, you guys are making all kinds of money. Well, actually, the average real estate agent isn't making that much money. But it is you can make a really incredible income if you set your mind to it. But you have to put out the effort. Like is in everything in life, very few things come for free. You've got to put the effort in. But if you put the effort in, it's so rewarding. But the other thing is not to look at it just for money, because if you're not really enjoying yourself, you'll never do well. And one of the things that I don't even feel like what I do is work. I'm so passionate about what we do and what Daniels represents and what we try to do with people that like I said, I can't imagine doing anything else. And if you don't feel that way about what you're doing, you'll never see that really huge success.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I've always felt that wasn't really, I mean, I agree with you. You learn about discipline, you learn about prospecting, because that's the way you grow your business, and you learn about being organized. You run a business where you're totally responsible for the success or failure, and that I think is that's what you learn, and you can translate that as you did into another career where I'm sure all the skills that you did as a residential real estate person, all the same skills you applied as a developer. One of the things I think that wasn't, at least when I took my course, wasn't taught to new people was the aspect of rejection. Is that, you don't, like you said, people go into real estate and think, oh man, it's easy, and I'll make a lot of money. Well, first off, you have to deal with a lot of rejection until you get there. So you have to be able to handle that. This is kind of a funny story I'm going to share with you. When I was more active in the company, when I was dealing with hiring agents, whenever I'd get a young guy in, usually it was guys, and they would say to me, you've been in the business a long time, you've been successful. Tell me, what can I do to be successful? As though there was a simple answer. And I'd say to them, if you really want to be really successful in real estate, they go, yeah. I said, marry a developer's daughter. Because that way you can assure yourself you will be successful. But other than that, it's just, and I think you have to like what you do. I think because when I was selling prior to getting involved with this company, I liked working with the clients I had. So if they called me at 11 at night, 8 in the morning, on the weekends, it wasn't like, oh God, I don't want to hear from these people.
Yeah.
And I think that's also important. And things have changed. Technology has changed the way the business is run. But nevertheless, I think the most important thing is, being intentional, being committed to your career, recognizing its ups and downs, as we both experienced the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, and just continue to look for business. It's as simple as that, and be authentic with your clients. You'll get referrals. I tell people this all the time. You'll get referrals when people think you did a good job for them. You don't have to ask. They'll be telling everybody how happy they were with you. So that's my take on the real estate industry. Listen, we're almost at the end of, and I know you're a busy guy, so I didn't want to take up too much time. But there is one question that I always find interesting. It was certainly for me. It gave me an aha moment. Dominic, if you could tell your 20-year-old self something, what would that be?
Gosh, that's a great question, and that's one to think about for quite a while. So I don't know if off the cuff I'm going to come up with anything brilliant on that.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
When you look back, in all that time, it's been quite a journey, and I think a lesson for everybody is that it's never straight up. There's it doesn't matter how talented you are, how hard you work, you're going to have setbacks. And it's how you react at that time that will determine who you become. And most people think of it from a standpoint of they only look at it from the ups. They're looking forward to the ups, but it's the setbacks that create your character. And often those setbacks, if you respond to them well, turn into the opportunities that create your future life and so many, help create your dreams. So that's the thing, I'm pretty straightforward about it. I didn't have a straight up career, and it was a struggle. I came from a family who struggled to pay the bills, to struggling to do the same thing when I first got into real estate. And it was really, I think, looking back, is that I just say to that 20-year-old, just keep going, because that's really what it's about. It's like when the race is over, the person who wins is the one who doesn't quit.
You just gave your 20-year-old self great advice. So you don't have to think about it anymore. I think that's as important as anything. Don't quit. So, Dominic, I want to thank you for being a guest today. These podcasts are where I've met somebody through the business world, but we never had a chance to talk about the individual, which is why I wanted to have you on, because I remember when I met you, I just thought what a decent, refined, nice person. So thanks for joining us today. If you're available, I'd like to have you on again in the future sometime. I want to wish you all the best with those 3 gigantic projects that are going on. I'll keep my eye out as I go up River Street.
Well, thank you very much. It's really been a pleasure. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks so much, Dominic.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We want to thank our guest today, Dominic Tompa, the Vice President of Sales of Daniels Corporation. And we also want to thank you, the viewers, for watching our podcast. If you're interested, you can reach us one of 2 ways. One is by email, info@rewithhd.com, or on the net, rewithhd.com. We also would like to invite you to go to YouTube and subscribe. So for today, thank you for joining us. Please be safe, be kind, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.